two, one, and we are recording with Dr. Elizabeth Rodgers, who I believe has a new microphone and
I do.
whole setup. It's very, very, very spiffy. Please introduce yourself. We had you out, came on last time. You're an epidemiologist. We talked about COVID insurance numbers, and this
Hmm.
time is going to be a little different. It's going to be more about energy healing. But I like what you said in your message to me yesterday is someone like you are trained in quote unquote traditional medicine and traditional science. So it's going to be interesting diving into this. And you said one of my favorite Einstein quotes about aligning yourself with the frequency of the reality you want. It's not, this isn't philosophy, this is physics. It can be no other
Hmm.
way. I'm very interested in that because, you know, I love meditation, I love spirituality, and at the same time, I love science. I love the concrete, the cold, calculating, reproducible. 2 plus 2 is 4. This water bottle drops
Yeah.
at 9.81 meters per second. But I also love the ethereal, the questions that can't be answered, the philosophical questions, the consciousness, you know, you can't see the back of your eyes. What is it
Mm.
like to not exist? How can you know yourself? A knife can't cut itself, a light can't illuminate itself. How can the self know itself? And there's sort of a merging of the two. I can put this down. There's a merging of the two, of the quote of the traditional science and then the more, I don't even know what it would be, maybe the spiritual side. But
Yeah.
I'm going to shut up and let you introduce yourself.
Oh, you're getting me so excited already. It's hard for me to introduce myself now because I want to just dive into this conversation. So, well, first of all, I just want to say, my friend Tommy, it is an honor to be here with you. So, thank you for having
Of
me.
course.
And to all of our listeners, my name is Dr. Elizabeth Rodgers, and I'm honored to be here to connect with all of you. Like Tommy said, I am an epidemiologist. I'm also a holistic health practitioner and medical intuitive, so quite a rare combination of things. And by traditional training, I'm a translational epidemiologist. And so I got all of my degrees at the University of Pittsburgh. I actually got degrees in psychology, epidemiology, and public health while I was there at Pitt. Left Pitt after my doctoral career, went out into industry after being a research scientist and working clinical practice for a number of years, and thought that's how I was going to change the world. Worked for a subsidiary of Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield in Pittsburgh. While I was there, did postgraduate work at Harvard Medical School and Massachusetts General Hospital. And here I am now. And it's funny, Tommy, because when you asked me if I was comfortable or open to talking about, the energetic side of health, healing, science, I got so excited. I practically fell out of my chair and I was literally jumping up and down. I was so excited because I think I don't know of any other epidemiologist actually in the entire world who does what I do. And for me, I feel like it's such a unique opportunity you and I have to have this conversation because I'm rooted in mainstream and very traditional evidence based science and research, but I bridged that gap. And so in the work I do now, I often say I'm the bridge between science and spirit because I really merge both.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I believe what you believe, which is that I'm madly in love with the scientific method, with good ethical science, with the right rigor and methodology and being able to quantify things, and it's beautiful. But because of my path through life, I went through some unexpected challenges, including a near death experience. And this was all happening while I was working on my doctorate. So I was rooted in that mainstream system, but going through something that was very, very challenging. And it was that experience that started to make me look at science and the world in a different way and start to realize how many more gaps there are than I think we perceive there to be with our three-dimensional eyes, right? Because the truth is that I realized about 15 years ago that if I was really going to help people, which is my purpose in this lifetime, And I was really going to help people actually heal and feel better and create a better quality of life for themselves, which is my ultimate goal in anything I do. That I realized then that if I really wanted to help people, that I had to recognize, not just acknowledge, but recognize and know that even as a scientist with lots of education, there are always, always going to be things beyond our three-dimensional experience that seem beyond our human comprehension and explanation, but that are absolutely real. And that I had to be able to account for those types of factors, right? Because in science, in epidemiology, we're always talking about like, oh, we study the factors that impact our health and ability to heal. But I realized then 15 years ago, where I was really right in the midst of working, about to bridge from my master's to my doctoral career, I realized that if I really wanted to be a great epidemiologist, I had to learn about the factors that aren't so easy to quantify too. And that, to me, is where the bridge happens, that we start to bridge the gap between science and spirit. And what I mean by that is, like Tommy said, I mean, think about it, right? Einstein said everything is energy. That's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality that you want, and you cannot help but create that reality. It can be no other way. And we know based on physics that everything is energy, right? I mean, even when they teach us in science class, like, right, what's everything made up of molecules, and what makes up molecules? It's protons and neutrons and electrons. And do you know what holds those together? It's space. It's space. And everything is energy. And we know based on Newton's laws and principles that energy can't be created or destroyed, but it can be transformed. So 15 years ago, I started thinking about the fact that I remember laying in my hospital bed and thinking, like, you know, there's that equation, right? And so everyone listening, even if you don't like science and you hate math, we've all heard of that famous equation, E equals mc squared. Even if you don't know what any of it means, everyone's at least heard of it before. And I started to realize that that equation has everything to do with us, because we are the physical manifestation of that M side of the equation, right? Here we are. We're these 3D human beings with bodies that need to be healed at a physical level, and we're real. And so traditionally, and I even think if we stretch out to look at alternative and holistic medicine, I think up to this point, we've done a really great job at focusing on the material or the physical side. But I think we can all think over our experiences in each of our individual lifetimes and ask ourselves, when do you ever go to a doctor and have them say to you, hey, it's really important that we talk today about your immune system and all the things we need to do to help you be physically healthy. But did you know that healing's actually an equation and there's a whole other side, and it's E, and it's energy? And so we actually also have to think about, that level, at an energetic level. Our bodies, our cells, they can absorb everything because energy follows thought. So, anyway, I'm very excited to talk about this topic, if you can't tell.
No, keep going. I am an audience member. Keep The floor is yours. Please keep going.
Cool. Well, so I thought it'd be fun for Tommy and I to talk a little bit about what energy healing really is. And I brought some fun stuff because I told Tommy yesterday, it might also be really nice for us to do something tangible, right? We can talk about energy, but I can't help you see it, right? I can help you feel it though. So I brought a couple fun things, and I thought today too, we could even practice and I can show you a couple of energy healing modalities, and I can do them for everybody, including our listeners, so that you can actually get an understanding of how that feels and what that experience is like. And so you can start to open yourself up to it. But Okay, so let's go back to E equals MC squared. We focus a lot on the material and the physical side of our health and well being, but why don't we focus on the energy side? And this is where I find an interesting cross section with some of the topics you and I've talked about before is that I think if we take we take a step back and we think about things in a more contextual way. We've all been really challenged for the past few years, right? And I think right now, and Tommy, you tell me how you feel, but I don't know about you, but my intuition and the way I feel about myself and the way the people I serve right now, and my guess is about so many of you listening, and you too, Tommy, is, I mean, don't we all want to feel the best that we can for as long as possible, right? We all want to feel the best we can for as long as possible. But here's the thing that I do know is that right now, just here in the United States alone, half of our population, we're not excluding any age groups here, is living every single day with one chronic physical, mental, or emotional health issue. And when we isolate the adult population, nearly 6 out of 10 adults are living daily with two or more chronic conditions. So if we all want to feel the best we can for as long as possible, and by the way, for our listeners, that data that I just cited here in the United States is reflected globally. So these are global trends. This is not a unique situation going on here in the United States. So with that being said, if everybody, if mostly everybody's walking around never feeling their best all of the time, what's the problem? Because that's not what we want. What's the problem? Well, the problem is that we've been trained to give too much power away. And we do it in a lot of ways. And this is related directly to energy. We give our power away to, and I'll just spew out a bunch of examples I'm sure so many of us can relate to, myself included. I'm not immune to any of these. I'm an imperfect human too. But we give our power away, right? And how do we do it? We give our power away to unhealthy habits that we know aren't good for us, to unsupportive relationships, to self sabotaging behaviors, negative self talk, right? Think about the way you talk to yourself. I bet if I polled the audience and I said, raise your hand if you can tell me when the last time you said you love yourself was, you might have a hard time remembering, but it'd be easy for you to raise your hand if I said, when was the last time you made fun of yourself or you called yourself stupid or something? So I think we even talked a little bit about this last time. But, okay. So that all being said, we're giving our power away in all of these ways to mainstream doctors as well, and not enough to ourselves. So why is that the case? And sometimes I think it's because all along the way we've had labels handed out to us, right? Because what's one of the forms that power, what's one shape that power takes? It's labels, right? We get a label that we're given a certain diagnosis, or when we all went to high school, we all got labels, right? You were cool or you were uncool, or you were a nerd or you were in marching band, you were a geek, and those labels put us in these boxes that make us feel honestly awful. And they actually did a study of high schoolers that showed where they separated the high school kids. They told some of them that basically they gave them the belief that everybody can change, so you're not doomed to be a victim of circumstance, right? And the other kids, they told them the opposite. And the high schoolers who believed that people, just based on the simple belief that they could change, they had better outcomes, less health issues, less anxiety, did better on tests, performed better in school, while the kids that just believed that they were doomed to be stuck in the place they were in did very poorly by comparison. So all these ways, right? I think we started adopting labels that took our power away from us and created like these energetic leaks, is the way I look at it, on us. Because we start to allow the labels we're given throughout our lifetime to become our identity, and we don't even realize that we're doing it. And in doing that, we're giving our power away to it. So bringing all of this back to, this theory of E equals MC squared, why did I even talk about power? Because Power has everything to do with energy. And it all starts with us. We are each our own mirrors and reflections, right? And if we're people that, we're down on ourselves, we're our own tough critics, we beat ourselves up all the time, and we don't talk to ourselves kindly, we don't prioritize self care, all these different, there are so many ways that we can give our power away. But the truth is, all of those ways are connected to our ability to be physically healthy and well. And so I think we often focus so much on the tangible, right? Um, and I think this is really connected to where we're all at now in this juncture with our health and well-being in the midst of a pandemic. Is all along the way we didn't have anybody really empowering us, but before that all started, we kind of had all forgotten just how powerful we really were. So we've just been sort of, I think, like schlepping along these past 2 years as feeling like kind of hopeless and powerless people, forgetting that we are incredibly freaking powerful. And it's had a negative impact on our health and well being because, again, healing's an equation and it's all connected. And I have found over the years in my practice, Tommy, that oftentimes, people will come to me and they'll say, people come to me for help and support when they're in less than optimal health and they don't want to be, and they'd like to transform their health and well-being from the inside out. And a lot of times people will come to me and they've been stuck in this vicious cycle for years and years and not understanding why. And they'll tell me, well, I tried this and here are all the things I did. And they'll list me, all the things that they did. And I'm using that word for a reason because that's typically what we do, right? Is we do. If we think something's off balance, if we think we're having a health setback, if we think something's off, whether it's related to our health or not, what's the first thing we do? That's exactly what we do, right? And I think that's really important to think about. So, anyways, I'm going to pause for a second because I know I'm saying a lot and I don't want to confuse anybody. So, is where I'm going making sense? Does this help
Yeah.
start to bring some clarity? I think we don't think enough about the energy side of our health and the fact that it doesn't exist on this separate island outside of our physical health and well-being. They are intimately connected, but when we're doing all of these things, right? That's what we do. Just like I was saying, we start doing. And so how come so many people are doing what they think are all the right things and they're still not getting the optimal health and well-being they desire? Why is that? Why is that? And it's because there's still something else missing, and it's energy. And that could be an imbalance taking a lot of different forms, right? I have actually worked with people who, I can give an example to everybody. I had a client last year who came to me. She was in her 60s. She'd been on antidepressants. Since she was postpartum with her first daughter back in her 20s. So a long time. She came to me because she was tired of living on prescription medications. She wanted to be free from them and she wanted to find a higher quality of life. And she still felt ultimately that she had not truly healed from the reason that she had been put on these antidepressants. So I came in to support her at this level. And I can tell you right now, she's not seeing me anymore privately because she doesn't take any more prescription medications and she feels amazing. But do you want to know what the thing was for her? It wasn't about eating all the right foods and taking all the right supplements and the vitamins. It mattered. That stuff helped. And of course, that's a piece of the puzzle, right? If you want vibrant health and well being, of course, there are some things you do have to do, but it was actually that there was an energetic block that had been with her for decades. And I picked up on it and could feel it right away, made her aware of it. And in one session, we did some healing work. We helped her shift and transform that energy, right? Because we couldn't destroy it, but we could transform it into something better. So that's what we did. And now she's feeling great, healthy, prescription medication free. But what had to transform for her had nothing to do with her material and physical health and well being. It had to do with something energetically. And I think as human beings, we just really overlook this part of our health. No one ever talks to us about it. And I don't remember anyone ever teaching me about this stuff in school. And so I had to, it took, intentional education and certification with a lot of professionals and mentors to get me to this place where I can have this conversation with you. But I have to tell you what it really taught me is that there is no such thing as a destination if what you really desire for yourself is to live in alignment with the highest, healthiest, most vibrant, and well version of you. There's no such thing as a magic trick that you can do to get that. There's no such thing as a destination you arrive at, or a day or a moment when you get there and you wake up, or you have this epiphany and you think, oh, this is it. I've arrived. I have reached optimal health, and now I can throw in the towel and I'm done with my healing work and I've arrived and I've achieved it all. There's that never ever ever happens. It's a state of being. And it really took me years and years and years on my own healing journey to really figure that all out and solve that puzzle and realize, oh, this is a journey. And I'm never getting off this train. I'm just going, it's like peeling off layers of an onion. We get to learn more and more and more about ourselves the deeper and deeper we go, right? But really, the basic principles, I even took some notes for everybody. If this helps, basic principles upon which, we can talk about anything related to energy work, whether it's for your health or your life, and we can talk about it in both respects today, is just that number one, all things are composed of energy. And the intelligent human mind can direct energy, which we'll talk about more. And energy is impressed upon matter. And energy follows thought, right? As soon as you think it, the energy follows. So, does that make sense? Those basic principles that help kind of form the foundation of, talking about that connection between science and spirit, physical and energy.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just listening. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I forgot that
That
I had to
makes me happy.
participate. Yeah, no, sorry. Keep talking. Yeah.
That makes me happy. You're so funny. Well, I thought it'd be fun today too to even talk a little bit about like how we shift, right? How do we even, so I have so many fun things I brought today. So I one form of manipulating energy. So if we want to talk about energy, and a lot of you are probably wondering, like, okay, well, this is great. And it's cool that there's such a thing as energy and that I could possibly even do something about that. So, what I hope everyone realizes, at least hopefully way before the end of this conversation with Tommy and I, is that you are so incredibly powerful. And don't you ever dare doubt that for a second. And anytime anything ever happens to you in any circumstance that makes you doubt that power, I remember this conversation and remember this moment, because I'm going to talk you through some facts that I think will help. And Tommy, I know you'll follow all of this with me. So stop me at any time if you want to ask a question, or talk about any parts of this. But okay, so how do we know that we all have a choice in creating our future, in creating our own health and well being, right? In taking our power back? How do we know that? Well, first we have to learn that we know that we all think, right? Which we're all doing, or we wouldn't be listening to each other or joining in this podcast or anything like that. Um, and we have to learn how to add power to our thoughts. So, how do you do that? And when we think about it, I'm sure lots of you listening are, creative people. Well, I think actually I know all of you are because I believe everybody's creative in their own unique way. You're all creative human beings. And I bet a lot of you listening are entrepreneurs. I bet a lot of you listening have dreams of starting your own business. But regardless, whatever you all do, I know who you all are, and who you all are incredibly powerfully intelligent beings capable of creating anything you want in this lifetime. So, I want you to remember first that most people's thoughts are scattered and at the wrong brain frequency. Don't worry if you're wondering, how do I know if mine's right or wrong? I'm going to get you there, and we'll talk about the different brain frequencies and how you could shift yours if that's something you desire to do. So, because so many of us are moving around every day, and think about it, right? In the busyness of our lives, like I even think about this moment, Tommy, like today before Tommy and I talked, I had back to back meetings all day. And you know how you just get in those days where you're kind of scattered because you're just going from one thing to the next to the next. And I had about 15 minutes before Tommy and I met, and I just sat down and just took a deep breath and just got present. And that, first of all, we'll get back to breath, but that is one of the most powerful things because I realized in that moment, I thought, oh, wow, my brain was like pretty scattered all day before this. And it just felt so good to get present. And I saw Tommy's face when we connected, and I just felt so happy to just be here and arrived with him and be present. But you can think about, I'm using that as an example because before that, and how we operate, most of us in our daily lives, especially if you have kids, family, you're multitaskers, which I think most of us are, you're moving around all day and operating in a pretty scattered brain frequency. And because of that, a lot of times you don't really, you're not really producing much outside of your own mind on any given day, right? You're not walking around, you're not driving down the street thinking, wow, look at that. Look at that. Easter bunny I just manifested on that person's lawn. It wasn't there 5 minutes ago, but I made it appear. And but we can get you to that level of power because you're probably thinking, well, is that possible for anyone? And the truth is, it is. So when you're in a scattered brain frequency, which most of us are most of the time, it puts us and our bodies under stress. Now, under stress, the brain frequency speeds up. This causes our thoughts to actually lose power, believe it or not. And I can tell you that what that also does is interrupts the functional connection between our immune system and nervous system. A very important connection. And when that functional connection gets disrupted, a whole other cascade effect of health problems can happen, which we can talk about what happens with our HPA axis, how that negatively affects our adrenal glands, and how that actually is a root cause of a lot of chronic health issues. But we'll back up and stay focused with me where we're at. So, stress, not good, happens when you're in a scattered state of mind. Now, it's also common knowledge that stress isn't good for all of us, which I just highlighted for you. So, what's the opposite of stress? It's relaxation. Now, I've heard some scientists argue and say the opposite of stress is kindness, but for the purposes of this discussion, the opposite of stress is relaxation because we're talking about shifting your energy and the state of your mind. So, let's think about it like this. Everything has a frequency or a vibration or a cycle or a beat, including you, including me. Everything, everything. And the earth goes around the sun every 365 days, 6 hours and a few minutes, if you want to get exact. The moon goes around the earth every 28 days. The leaves fall to the earth and decay and go back to the earth. The earth has 4 seasons. So all things come from the earth and will return to the earth. This is the cycle of nature. Now, you, as a human being, are a part of this cycle of nature. You also operate as a frequency and a vibration. So let's talk about that. Your heart has its own cycle, right? It's about 70 beats per minute, depending on who you are. And your brain actually also has its own frequency. And I think this is what maybe not everyone realizes or understands. But in your normal state during the day, your brain is emitting about 20 beats per second. And that is what is called the beta frequency. So that is where you're spending most of your time during the day. Now, the brain frequency for all of us is separated into 4 different parts. And depending on what research site you're citing out there and what references you're looking at, you may see these numbers shift a little bit. So just be aware of that. It's just going to depend on the resource you use. The resource I'm using for us today tells us that the frequencies from about 0.5 to 3 are called delta, 4 to 7 are called theta, 8 to 14 are called alpha, and above 15 it's called beta. Now, where we want to shift to create thoughts that have the maximum amount of power, and this would be then putting us into a situation where we could actually, with the power of our minds, shift energy not just for ourselves but outside of ourselves. We need to shift into a theta brainwave state. And so how do we get into a theta brainwave state? Well, the answer is breathing. So one of the first things we needed to do was really learn what I just shared with you, and then you can learn how to reach that powerful state of mind, right? And if we were able to just consciously lower our brain waves, then we could just automatically improve our immune systems and give more power to our thoughts. And that would also help both sides of our brain, right? Because we have right and left brain hemispheres. But if you think about it, so Tommy, I'll ask you this. Do you still have the same imagination that you had when you were a little kid?
I actually think I do.
See, okay. Oh my God, I knew this. I love you. I knew, see, I do too. But a lot of grown-ups would probably say, and a lot of you listening as adults might think, probably not, right? Remember when we were little kids, a lot of us had imaginary friends. I mean, think of what we did with our imaginations. I mean, geez, our parents could send us to our room and we could imagine an entire world
Yeah.
going on in there for hours by
Yeah.
ourselves. And it was real to us. You know, our parents couldn't have talked us out of that. It was real. I can remember being on the floor with my brothers and setting up G.I. Joes and, oh my gosh, and I won't say some of the toys that will date me, Ninja Turtles and things like that. But I mean, it was so real, you know? And so, why do a lot of us not have those vivid imaginations that we used to have as kids? And the reason is because most people lose their ability to equally use both sides of their brain as our bodies physically mature. The reason is because we train ourselves to do that. And of course, if you're wondering, can you get it back? Yes. Yes, 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 and yes. All you have to do is practice. But if you think about it, that's the truth, right? We really move out of using both sides of our brain equally. So, some cool stuff I thought would be fun to do today during this session so everyone can receive the benefits is we can actually do, and I can do some healing work here. I'll use a tool so you can actually all get a visual aid and understanding of how and when it's happening. But we can actually do energy work to balance our right and left brain hemispheres, balance the blood flow to the appropriate areas of our brain, to balance the melatonin, serotonin, and other associated brain chemistry inside of our minds. So we actually have the power. You do, listening right now. I want you to know that. You have the power to do these things. It's just a matter of learning. So hopefully I can teach you all some things today that you can start implementing in your lives, because I don't ever want to appear to be that practitioner that acts like I have all the all the tricks, or all the secrets. I don't. I just want to empower you all with everything I know so that you can be as powerful as a being as I'm working on evolving into, because like I said, it's a lifelong process. But right now, it is believed that only about 10% of the population actually uses both sides of the brain at the exact same time. Now, of course, this is greatly simplifying it, but our left side of the brain's our logical side, the right side's our creative side. Now, all children are using both sides of their brain, which is why they have such vivid imaginations. So the goal for us then as adults is to start to find ways to activate both sides of our brain. And the first way to do that is just by achieving an alpha brain state.
So how do they do that?
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool stuff. I think this stuff, honestly, is like the next level. I believe that this is where we're going to see science and research and medicine go. And it may not be soon, but as our lifetimes evolve, Tommy, I really believe that we're going to see more and more of this discussed. I hope sooner rather than later. So I hope at some point today we can talk a little bit about Tesla med beds, and we can talk to everybody about some of the cool um, technology really that's out there that exists that is real today that you could use for energy healing. That's pretty amazing. So, all right, let's talk about achieving alpha. So, how do we actually do that? Well, the first answer to the question is super simple, and it's just by breathing. Because the way for you to achieve alpha for any one of us is to relax. And we have to get into a relaxed state of mind. So if you're um, I've told some of my clients I've worked with is I've taken them into alpha, which is something we can certainly do today. We can do a little breathing exercise. And so I always say to my clients, if you find yourself asking me, are am I in brain did I make it? Am I in the alpha brainwave state yet? The answer is no, right? It's like when little kids ask us in the backseat of the car, are we there yet? Are we there yet? If you're
Yeah.
asking, are you there yet? You're not there yet. Keep breathing.
Yeah. It's like
But it
when you're meditating,
yeah,
sometimes I'll have the thought, I'll be like, I am meditating. And
me too.
I'll be like, that's not it. You never like, you're never like, oh, I meditate every day. And
Me
like,
too.
if you're ever in the spot where you're like, have I done it yet? It's no. It's all of a sudden yeah, you're just, you're never at a party thinking like, am I having fun? Right? You're
Exactly.
either
You're
just,
just doing it.
you and your friends are, red in the face laughing. You're never like, if you're asking, am I having fun now? Is this movie good? Do I like this food? Then you don't. You're
Yeah,
just, you bite into a burger and you're like, oh my God, like, like that's incredible. Or, do I like this weather? If you're asking, do you like, is it summer
exactly.
yet? No, when it's just summer. It's just summer when you walk outside and it's 1 trillion degrees. That's summer, right? It's sort of the same, but it's a conundrum then, or it's a catch 22 because it's like, well, then how do you get? I, I don't know. That's kind of the weird thing is like you just kind of have to do the process
Yeah.
and then it just happens. It's a weird, you
It
have
is
to
so
try,
weird.
but you have to try until you're not trying. It's the weirdest, but there is some sort of process. It's not entirely random. You don't just wake up. Like you do have to sit down and meditate.
You do. It takes intention, and that's you're like hitting on such an important
I
thing
th-
is it takes intention.
I think it's like the Maya Angelou quote, um, where she talks about like writing, and she was like, creativity doesn't just you don't just get it all the time. And she describes it as the
Yeah.
muse. And she's like, you have to show up every day to the typewriter and you have to put in the effort. And she's like, and sometimes you'll go for weeks where the only thing you're able to write is the fat cat wore a hat and sat on the mat. And she goes, and it's just terrible. But eventually, as if respecting your dedication to show up to the job, the muse will finally appear and go, all right, and give you a best selling novel. So it's this sort of like you have to show up. Most days I meditate and I finish, and I'm like, why did I even? I, nothing happened. But then maybe you get it every day. Sometimes like today, I had a good one for the first time in like 2 weeks, and you just come out of it, and you're like, oh, you just feel like you cracked your back. You're like,
Yes.
it's like, as I think Ram Dass said, it's like taking off shoes that are too tight.
It feels so
You're
good.
like, oh, you're like, there it is. You're like, that's why I do it. And then I might have a good one tomorrow. I might have a good one every day for the next week, maybe for the rest of my life. The reality is, I'll probably have like another couple good ones. And then for a week or a month, I'll be sitting there going, what am I doing? This is such a waste of 20 minutes. What am I doing? But then all of a sudden, it just opens, like the walls fall away. And you're like, oh, you just kind of completely, yeah, you completely open up. And it's just, and it's almost like enough. It's like filling up a gas tank. It's almost enough for like another week of like maybe not good meditation. When you have like
I
one
love that.
really good one, you can have like a mediocre one every day, and it's enough to kind of get you through the day. It's
It's so
better than nothing.
true.
But if you have a good one, I mean, man, for a couple days, you're just like, yeah, we're good. We're good. It's this weird. And the more you try to get it, the less you can have it.
So true.
Sorry, I'm rambling now.
No, I love this. You're bringing all these thoughts into my head. Like, first of all, I feel like one of the things you're expressing is what every single one of us struggles with, right? Is like we have to deal with the duality of being a human while
Yeah,
we meditate. Like, I remember
yeah.
when I started meditating a long many years ago, I can remember thinking like, I can't wait to meditate because I'm just going to get to turn off my brain. And then you learn when you start to meditate that therein lies the challenge, right?
It's
You don't get to just turn your brain off. It never just turns off. You just get better at shifting, into connection with a different space. But like you said, and you also brought something else to my mind that I feel like is helpful when I think about this in the context of energy healing and our lives and our well-being is that for me, you gave me this beautiful, like I was just so present and connected with your energy while you were sharing your experience of that feeling when you have a good meditation. And you know what you made me realize is that I feel like what it feels like is when somebody turns off like all the white noise. Do you ever put like, or even do you ever put up on a point? It's like, do you ever put on a pair of noise canceling headphones, and you didn't even realize that there was like background noise until that moment when you put them on and you think, oh,
for for me, the analogy is
you know,
when you have the dryer going, or like a
yeah,
refrigerator's running. You don't even you're sitting there, and all of a sudden it goes like, and it like shuts off, and you're like, I didn't even realize there was
yeah,
noise. And you're like, what is this? You're like, this is,
yeah.
you're like, I thought it was quiet. And, for whatever reason, all the ceiling, for whatever reason, the ceiling fan just stops like clicking. And you're like, or if you ever walk on a treadmill for like a mile, and then you get off all of a sudden, and you're like, oh, and you kind of start walking around. It doesn't
And you're
even
like,
feel
it
like you're
feels
walking.
still.
It's the weirdest.
It is such a
But
weird
that's what
feeling.
that's what it is like
Yes.
you're just sitting, and there is like the duality of man. You're at one point, you're trying to be this like enlightened being of peace and love and light, and then on the other hand, you're just like, oh fuck, I gotta go grocery
And
shopping today. You're like, and then you're like,
or that moment happens in your meditation when you kind of start to have to pee a little bit and
oh
you're
yeah,
like,
you're
and then
like,
all of a sudden all the humanness comes
yeah,
flooding
you're like,
back
I
in.
have to be peaceful. I have to be, and you're like, why didn't I go to the bathroom before this? And you're like, and then you come back in, and you're like, okay, we're here. And then you get mad at yourself. You're like, why are you thinking about that? Why are you thinking about your bank account? You're supposed to not think about that. And then you're like, I'm sorry. And then you're like, why are you arguing with yourself? You psychopath. And then it's just like, come back down, come back down. But it's this weird, yeah, it's you slowly have to it's a lot like it's a lot like remembering that things are just a game. Like
So true.
it's I always try to think of like playing video games with my friends and we'd be getting like worked up and then like you hit pause and go to the bathroom and
And you're like, oh yeah, it's not
you're like,
real.
oh yeah, that's not
That's
you're like
right.
that's not like no one's actually hurt. No one's
Yeah.
actually you're like, oh, you're like, I gotta go to bed. Like, what am I doing? And that's kind of what meditation is like you finally just like put the controller down and turn the
Oh my
TV
gosh, I
off.
love that so much, so much. And don't you think too, it gets you present. Like on it, I will tell you if I go for even a day or two and I don't meditate, oh my
Oh
gosh,
God.
by the time I'm on that third day, I feel rotten. I feel awful. My energy is all out of
It's the
whack. I
I
feel heavy and drained. It's just the worst.
it's the
Um,
worst. And like for
it's the
me,
worst.
I find myself like constantly seeking pleasure more. Like I want to take a longer, hotter shower. I want to sleep in.
Yes,
I want to eat
yes, me
fast food.
too.
I want to go smoke pot and drink beer and go to bed. Versus if I just meditate every day,
I'm good.
I'm like the
I'm
struggle's good.
centered.
It's good to work. It's good to learn. It's good to, push yourself. And when I don't meditate, it's just like I want to go to bed. Now I want to get
Yep.
food. Now I want to watch TV. Now I want to scroll through Instagram.
Yep.
Now I want to do, it's just like
And you're
you
kind of numb.
you just slogging through it all versus like when I meditate every day, you're like, yeah, this is going to be difficult, but when I work, the reward is great. It's the weirdest, but then there's like this catch 22. If I don't meditate for like a day or two, I know that meditating will help this, but I don't
Yeah.
do it because I'm like, I can't possibly help. What is sitting on a pillow for 20 minutes do? And I push it aside. And then I meditate and I come out of it and I'm like, why did I take 2 days off? I'm like, this is
Yeah.
wonderful. But like, I mean, almost every day, I'm like, I don't want to meditate. And I'm like, I know I've been meditating every day for 15 years. I'm like,
Me too.
I know just like the sun's going to rise tomorrow. If I sit down for 20 minutes, the rest of my day is going to be so much better.
Yeah.
But I don't believe it. I'm always just like, bullshit. I mean, I guess I'll do it. And I sit down and then I come out of it. I'm like, oh, that was wonderful. And then the next day I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. I'm just going to do the podcast. I just got to, it's the weirdest.
Yeah.
It really is like the biggest catch 22 in like
It is.
reality.
And listening to you describe this is the most beautiful example I could never make up of everything we're talking about. Like what I just listened to you go through and witnessed you talk yourself through is all about, has everything to do with what we're talking about, right? You just talked about, you really just gave a beautiful example of the power of meditation and what happens when you actually do that. And you, in those moments, were able to shift your state of being. I mean, that's literally what you did. And then you actually just talked about how differently you talk, how you differently you think in those different scenarios, which is really amazing if you think about it. And so this makes me think about just, I can share this with everybody, like Tommy just described. Okay, so we are all human beings, and no, I don't care if you are in an absolutely perfect and optimal state of health and well being, you are not immune to tough days. We all have them because we're human beings, right? And so, like we were talking about at the beginning, we are all a vibration and a frequency, and we exist on a vibration and a frequency. And so, obviously, we live on planet Earth, right? And we are bombarded by and exposed to a ton of other different energies and frequencies because literally, okay, if everything is energy, that means everything around me has energy. One of the reasons why I have a room full of plants where I work, because plants have high vibration and I want to raise the vibration in the room I'm in. But right, think about it. Some of us work around negative people. Some of us work in negative environments. Some of us just work in challenging places, right? If you're a healthcare worker and you work in the hospital, I don't care if you are the greatest doctor in the entire world and you are madly in love with what you do, just like I am. Um, there's still tough days and you're still impacted by the energy going on in the place that you're in. So, okay, so we all experience those types of situations, and I know every single person listening has too. So then how do we shift out of that, right? Like you just said, how when you're having a couple of days like Tommy where it's a couple of tough days, you don't feel like meditating if you're somebody that has that type of a practice or whatever your practices are in getting yourself balanced and well on any given day. We all know that when any one of us, myself included, has those tough days, those things tend to fall by the wayside. You don't feel as motivated. And we all have days like that. And so, what I've been taught and what I love to help teach other people too, and I think this will be helpful, is that wait, like, what do we do on days like that? Some of us, especially if you're a type A person, tend to beat ourselves up, right? We're like, and I didn't meditate today and I didn't do that and I didn't get my to do list done. And we're being hard on myself and I'm never enough and I'm never enough and I'm never enough, right? We're all not enough, but P.S. you are. Um, that's what we do. But when we're having days like that, the truth is that because we live on planet Earth, energy ebbs and flows, right? We all know this journey is not linear. If you're somebody who's working on a healing journey, then you know just as well as I do, because I've been on my own for over a decade, that it ebbs and flows. And sometimes you get stuck in a cycle for a while and then you skyrocket out of that and it's all over the place. And if I drew you a graph, it would look disgusting and messy because it's not a perfect linear journey. So you're going to, even if you're an optimally healthy and well person, you will have tough days. And so, what do you do on those tough days? On those tough days, you're a high vibrational being experiencing lower frequencies. So, that's one perspective you can have, is that what we have to remember is that we have our humanness, but beyond that, we are also high vibrational beings. That's just what we are, and you can't do anything about that. You can't change it, actually. It's just what you are. So you are a high vibrational being here on planet Earth who experiences a lot of different types of frequencies, high, low, and everywhere in between on any given day. And those things are what impact you and your feeling state every day. Right. So that's why you wake up some days and you're just like, I'm ready to go. And some days you're like, I'm going to kill, like, I hate whoever invented the alarm clock. If they're not already dead, I'm going to kill them,
Yeah. Oh no, my alarm went off this morning and I took it as like a personal offense.
And so I know,
I lit
trust me, there are days like that.
I started talking to my phone. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like the
Oh my gosh.
audacity to
I
wake
had
me
a
up.
I had a day last week where the alarm went off. My fiance, and it was next to my fiance, and he was sleeping through it. And I like sat up in bed, like just like I was like the most highly offended woman in the world. I was
Like,
like,
who do
"How
you think
dare
you are?
you?"
Like I took that as like a personal assault on like my body. I was like, that was sexual assault. I'm like, this alarm clock.
Like I
I'm
have been
like,
violated in the
I'm gonna
highest of ways.
I'm going to take it to court. Uh, and like not even the fact that like I set the alarm and it did its job. I and the only person whose
And you
fault it
probably
is
paid for
mine.
the alarm with your money too.
Yeah, and the reality is like the only person to blame is me because I definitely stayed up later last night than I should have. Like I absolutely should have gone to bed. No, no, I'm just gonna scroll through my phone. I woke up today and the alarm went off, and I was just like, and then so I silenced it, and the nerve it had for the second alarm to go off in case I was just like, I got up and I was like, who do you think you are? And like pouted as I went about my day completely on time, thanks to the alarm. And and then you try to meditate and you're
And
like,
then you try to meditate
and you're
on the
like,
other
who the
side of
hell
that.
am I to think that I'm like some awakened being when I'm just a stupid evolved monkey yelling at a sound emitting device because I have a biological brain that operates on a sleep cycle.
In a human mind that limits you. Isn't that the worst? Sometimes I think, how did I get stuck here on
You're like, how
planet
did
Earth
I?
in this body dealing with this bullshit?
You're like, I'm stuck in this piece of shit that runs on carbohydrates and water and sleep. and you're like, this is just such a nuisance. I have to breathe, I have to eat, and you're
I have
like,
to
what
take
am
care of
I?
myself
And
all
then
the
like
time.
I look at like a computer and I'm like, this thing's got it made. It just plugs in, it doesn't have to meditate, it just works. And then and
And
you're
then
like,
I
all
just
right,
put it to sleep.
yeah, yeah. And then you're
That's
like,
what
all
we do.
right. But then you meditate and it's beyond comprehension. And it what you do achieve is like inexplicable.
It's really true. And what's interesting too is that, you know, what you're describing makes me think about the fact that, like we're talking about, we're these high vibrational beings, but because we're experiencing all these different types of frequencies, and sometimes shifts in our own frequencies can be caused by ourselves. What because maybe you drove through the McDonald's drive-through last night and you knew that was probably not the best choice, or maybe like Tommy, you decided to lay in bed and scroll on your phone and you knew that wasn't the best choice. Which we'll talk about energy in the realm of like EMFs and all of that stuff too, because I want to do a little energy work for all of you today. But like, so how do you let that vibration shift so that you can feel better? This might so sound counterintuitive, but one of the best ways that you can allow your energy to shift is to actually allow it,
Oh,
right?
lean into it.
Is to actually lean into it, because here's the thing. So think about this, and everyone will be able to resonate and relate to this. When you're having a great day, it is so easy and you feel good physically, mentally, and emotionally for the most part. It's so much easier to take good care of yourself, eat healthy, exercise, do all the things, drink your green juice, whatever the things are you do to maintain your health and well-being, right? You're motivated to do it. But let's face it, um I no I am no personal exception to this rule that when you're feeling and experiencing lower vibrational frequencies, and so therefore you don't feel as well physically, mentally, emotionally, or energetically, then you absolutely are not motivated to get out of bed, to exercise, to eat healthy. Those are definitely the days, like Tommy said, right? It's so much easier on those days to just be like, screw this. I'm just going to binge eat. I'm just going to sit on the couch and have my junk food. I'm just going to order takeout tonight. I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to smoke this joint. I'm just going to relax and chill out. Like, it's so much easier to do all of those things. And so what I've been taught is that the best way to allow that stuff to shift, and a lot of times we'll keep ourselves in that cycle longer, right? Because we'll
Yeah.
kind of resist coming out of it, because once you're in it and you're doing the crap
It's like
again, it's
getting in
so
a
easy to stay
it's like
there.
getting in a
It's
hot
like,
shower.
yeah.
You're like, I'm not getting out of this
And you're
thing.
just like, all right, I'm going to stay for just 5 more
And
minutes,
but
just
then
5 more minutes.
much like a hot shower, eventually you either get out with your own will or you get out when the hot water runs out. And like that's that's not enjoyable. Dr. Rogers, you froze up. I hope that wasn't my internet. No, you're
Exactly.
back.
And you're like,
You're
okay,
back.
this isn't feeling as good. Oh,
Okay.
good,
Sorry.
good, good. I was going to say, shoot, I
Yeah,
wasn't,
no.
I'm still here.
You're
But,
okay, you're good.
okay, good, good.
Yeah. It's yeah, when you fall into that cycle, it's it starts to you start to have it. So like once a week, and I purposely do it. Like once a week, like it'll be like tomorrow evening. I normally do Thursday
Yeah.
nights. I'll go get like a 12 pack. I'll play video games with my friends. I'll order like last fall it was like mostly Pizza Hut. Now I'm on like a Taco Bell binge. And like I'll do Taco Bell. Like it's over my diet. It's not like full on like glutton, but it's like a middle ground. Like it's way
Yeah.
more calories than I need. But I have that. I'll get drunk, not shit faced, but I'll get drunk. I'll play video games. I'll stay up
I
way
love
late
this
play
story.
and then I'll sleep in and I'll wake up and like I don't just get hungover. I go through like acute alcohol withdrawal. Like I'll actually be like shaky and stuff. And like so the next
That's how
morning,
I used to be when I
yeah,
would drink
yeah.
too.
So I'll wake up
Ugh.
at like so I'll wake up tired. The shakiness only lasts for like an hour. I'll be like shaky. I'll be like bloated full of food and I'll be like laying there and like there's like shit all over my room, like that the kitchen's not clean, like I left the lights on or something. And I sleep in though, and I've come to I've come to embrace it and actually sort of look forward to it because on one hand, like on one hand, it's a reward to myself. Like, okay, I work
Yeah.
out 6 days a week. I do like 10 podcasts a week. I listen to like 30 hours of audiobooks a week. Like I'm doing all this stuff.
It's amazing.
On one hand, I'm like, you deserve it. Have your little reward. It's fun. Secondly, I also find that like it wasn't that fun. And like you kind of need it to go, oh yeah, it's not that great. If you push it off forever, that's all you're ever gonna think about. But if you do
Yep.
it once a week, you're like, okay, that was good, but you're like, Taco Bell is definitely not worth like feeling overweight. You're like, it's definitely not worth it. It's good, but it's definitely not worth it. And then third, so one, it's a reward. Two, it's a realization that it's really not that great. And then third is like, oh, this feeling of like feeling fat, of like not feeling rested, of being foggy, of being
Of feeling.
hungover. You go,
Mhm.
oh, you know what's great? Not feeling like this. You know how you don't feel like this? Tomorrow you get up, you go to the gym, you make your bed, you clean the dishes, you meditate, you do the podcast, you listen to an audiobook. And I found that actually leaning in and not just like in college, all I did was work. Like
Yeah.
4.0 student, like 8 pack abs. Like I could do like 150 push-ups in a row, like study for 12 hours. And like
Wow.
I would always like when I took a
Wow.
day off though, I like it wasn't because it like happened. It would be like once every
It
like
would
2 months,
happen to you
it would
because your body would
happen.
take you
And
out.
I would
Yeah.
just get shit faced for like 3 days. I'd spend like $500 at the bars with my friends. I'd like, I'm not even kidding, like steal a mailbox. Like I'd like go overboard and like it had to happen versus now. And then for several years after college, like after my brother died, all I did was lean in. I never got
Yeah.
out of the shower for several years, gained a ton of weight, was on a lot of drugs, like forgot how to live.
Yeah.
Versus now, it's like 80 to 90% work, sleep, meditation, go to bed. I know you don't want to go to bed. You got to do this.
Yeah.
And then like once a week, it kind of bubbles up. And instead of saying like that's evil, or instead of saying like I'm just gonna party from here on out, there's just this slight like, all right, we're gonna have some drinks, turn on some music. Me and my buddies are playing video games, we're talking shit, we're just doing eating Taco Bell,
Yeah.
whatever. You
Just
wake up the next
transform and
day.
shift the vibes.
Yeah, you wake
Yeah.
up and it's like 2 p.m. and you're not going to the gym and you're like, I'm a little hungover. I kind of feel like shit. I'm not listening to an audiobook today. You're like, I got a ton of emails I got to respond to, but I'm not doing any of that today. And you get it all out of your system. And like by that night of kind of doing nothing all day and being hungover, you're like, yeah, I bet I could go to the gym tomorrow. I might even want to go to the gym. And you get back into it. You do that
And it's
first day of,
shifted.
yeah, you
Yep.
go back to that first day of work, and the first day is a little hard, but then it starts to kind of like move, and it
Yeah.
starts like, it's like pushing a boulder. It starts to get momentum, and you're like, you start kind of going, you're like, oh, this feels great. And you
Yes,
go for
totally.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. And today I'm on day 5, and I'm starting to feel like, oh boy, I got one more workout to do, and then Taco Bell. And I'm like, all right. And then but it's like its own little cycle. And I've kind of found that when I work all week, I don't tell myself, you can't party, you can't have fun.
Yeah.
Versus when I do take that time off and have fun, I'm also not like, I never want to work again. I've just tried to like surf the waves of like where, and then so eventually you have to, after enough times of doing this, I've been doing this for like, I moved out on my own. So I've been doing this for about 52 weeks now, about a year.
Yeah.
It's worked out great. Eventually you have to move out and go, well, then what's the point of any of it? What's the point of the waves? And
I
that's
love
when you
that.
set long-term goals. You go, oh, well, I want to grow the podcast. I want to lose this much weight. I want to make this much money. What do I want my legacy to be? I want to make a ton of money on the podcast, and I want to build like I want to do something with like mental health or like a hospital or something. And like, I want that to be like my
Yes.
impact on the world after I die. So what you do is once you learn the waves, it's not enough to just ride the waves forever. I mean, you can, but you can also go, oh, let's direct the waves at something, and you
Exactly.
can point it at a goal 10 years down the road.
And you're doing that.
Yeah, and it's this weird, and then once you kind of line it all up, it just starts it just starts to sort of flow naturally. I don't
And
even know what the
like
hell I'm talking about.
I do, and I want to say two things about everything you just said. Two things. One, when you were talking about, you know, it's such a beautiful example of that process of surrendering is what you just talked about going through like that day after you hung out with your friends and you were drinking and like you're feeling a little hungover, you're not going to answer emails and like so think about it in like the bigger context of what we're talking about. And I said, our energy shifts and we experience these different vibrations, but the best way for us as human beings to shift back into that higher vibrational feeling state that we all like to be in and desire to be in all of the time, the best way to allow ourselves to shift into that is to allow the low vibrational energy to be, is not to resist it by staying in it, because right, a lot of times we'll get in it and like you've pointed out examples, oh my gosh, you guys, I could share so many stories from my own healing journey about every mistake I made. And trust me, I made every one in the book. So um, I think it's such a beautiful example that you just shared of the best thing we can do is rather than resist it, right? Because I can even think of examples in my past. Like I struggled after my near death experience for a lot of years with PTSD and depression and anxiety. Really hard. Um, didn't realize that I was going through it, and I didn't know how to ask for help. And so the way I coped is when I would go into what I called like a dark phase where, I'd be like Tommy, 4.0 student, doing great, working, research, I was on a chancellor's fellowship doing undergrad research. But then all of a sudden I'd get hit and it would knock me out for a while. And the way I coped was I would keep myself, I can look back and realize I kept myself in those cycles of depression for so much longer than I needed to, just because I would just lean in so hard and I
Yeah.
would lean on those negative coping mechanisms. For me, it was just like lots of like emotional eating, binge eating. I would overuse pot, just anything to numb myself to what I was feeling because I just didn't want to feel the way I was feeling, and feeling nothing at the time was the only better alternative I could think of. But I would keep myself in those cycles for months longer than I ever needed to be in them because I just kept leaning on those things so much, and I couldn't just allow myself to surrender to the fact that I was going through a tough time, just like you do on your, let's say it's a Sunday day when you're feeling a little hungover, right? Rather than you deciding like, okay, you know what, I don't like this, so tonight I'm gonna drink more and I'm gonna play more video games and I'm just gonna keep rinse, washing, and repeating because now
Yeah.
I'm in this and I just don't know any better, and I don't know how to get out. But instead of that, on that day, you realize like, okay, I'm feeling a little shitty, so I'm just gonna, I acknowledge it. First of all, that's what you do. And that's in, and to everybody listening, when you're in any state, doesn't matter if you're hungover, depressed, dealing with a tough time, just having a low vibe day, whatever it is. First thing is just acknowledging it. And that's what Tommy did, right? He got up and he was like, okay, hungover. So what am I going to do? I'm going to like ride it out. And so that's what he did. He really and then you surrender to it, is you acknowledge it and you turn your attention to it intentionally and you say, okay, I'm having a day where I'm off or I'm depressed or whatever it is, hungover, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever your off thing is, just acknowledge it. Like make yourself say, okay, like this thing is happening and I'm feeling this thing today. And then just surrender to it. And if that means it's a day where you just lay on the couch all day and play video games, that's cool. If
Yeah.
it means that you need to get in the hot shower or lay in the bathtub, that's cool. It means if you need to go to McDonald's and have some french fries because that's what makes your stomach feel better today, that's cool. Do what you need to do, but just don't be numb to it. Be aware. Be like, all right, cool. Today's a crap day. It's going to be a crap day. here's what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to I'm going to take care of myself and surrender and just get through it. Because then, like Tommy said, what happens is you actually allow that energy that you're experiencing, which that's really all that it is in the end, you allow it to shift much more quickly. And then before you know it, hopefully you're back to feeling like that more high vibrational being that you are because that crap energy has shifted. But it's when we try to fight against it, we keep ourselves there so much longer. And I just feel like so many can relate because haven't we all been there and done that at some point in our lives? And I feel like for me what it took on that journey was moments like this where I realized there was another choice, that I actually wasn't this powerless, when I was in my 20s, gosh, I thought I was like this powerless little girl. Um, Everything in the world was happening to me, and I was just a victim, and I didn't know how to get myself out of it, and I didn't know I had any power to get myself out of it. And I think the most important thing is realizing that you don't have to be stuck anywhere. And you are the most powerful person in the world. There's nobody you know that's more powerful than you. Did you know that? And if you can realize that and allow it to shift, that is such a huge step in just being able to create the life of your dreams, really. You know, we can
Yeah.
create anything. We are that powerful. But I think we don't even give ourselves enough credit because we've given it away to so many other places and situations and circumstances, when it's been right inside of us all along. It's right inside of you, just right there. If you just take a moment to breathe and allow yourself to just sink into it, you know?
I think about like I started this podcast in December 2019 and pretty much have been doing the same like weekly thing since
It's
December
amazing.
2019.
That is
Yeah.
incredible. You're amazing.
And I look at like my goal was like to build the podcast and to make it better. And there's never been one day where you feel like I did it. But even
Yeah.
now, just like kind
Yeah.
of sitting here,
You did do
like
it.
2 years ago, like I was doing it on a laptop above my parents' garage in a big room that echoed, and I didn't know how to not use the F word every third word. And now I'm sitting here and I'm looking and I'm on a much better computer with a 4K camera and a studio mic surrounded by sound panels. And this is episode 782. And I've got all
That's
this equipment
insane.
and all these contacts and all these people I've interviewed tons of times now, like regularly, like Dr. Malone. Like I'm like texting with guys like getting into Congress, and I'm like,
It's
yeah, I'd love to have you
amazing.
on again. And I'm like, if I just
This is
pause
my
and look at
life.
it, I'm like, what in the hell is this? But
You
there's
created
never,
this.
and I know that when I look back, I go, oh, but there's never once been a day where it's like, I did it. Every day you're like, when is it gonna happen? And
Exactly.
like
That's the
as I sit
thing.
down, I'm like, when is this gonna happen? Like, when is what gonna happen? Like, you're your own
You're
boss doing a
here.
podcast from your apartment, talking to whoever you want about what. Today, my job is to talk to you about meditation and McDonald's. That's my job. I don't have to go check in at Walmart. This is my, and I'm sitting here and I'm going,
Nobody's your boss.
yeah, and I'm going, when is it gonna happen? And I'm like, when is what gonna happen? Like
It's
but at the same
here.
time, you have to almost have that hunger for it to keep going. And in a year, I bet right now, if I could just look at myself in a year for 5 seconds, it would blow my mind.
Oh yeah.
But
Oh
if I
yeah.
go, but that guy in a year from now, I'll probably be going, when is it going to happen? And I'm looking at him going, what do you mean, when is it going to happen? You just interviewed
You're
whoever and
crazy.
you've got this many subscribers. And he'd look back at me and be like, you idiot. And I'd be like, but it is, but it does kind of all come with those just like weekly cycles of like
It does.
riding in and riding out. Like I when I go to the gym, like wake up, like I make my bed, I I put away laundry, I put on clothes, I go to the gym, I do a mile on the treadmill, I do weights for 20 minutes, and I come back. And that entire thing takes like 2 hours. So like in that time, like I multitask, I listen to like an audiobook, just try to generally just like learn more about the world.
Yeah, me
And
too.
there are all these sort of like multitasking things when like the podcast is processing on the computer. I go get the dishes, I like make dinner, I kind of finish emails for the day, respond to all the guests I have to, blah blah blah, doing all this. And then when it finishes uploading, I upload it on to all the different social media platforms. I'm constantly multitasking, and what I've
Yeah.
tried to have to realize is like that multitasking can also exist on your off day. Not that you should be working, but rather like, hey, if you're already hungover, why not also just scroll on your phone for an hour? If you're already not doing anything, go take a shower for a half hour. If that apartment's already a mess, don't do the laundry. Who cares? You don't need to do this shit today. You don't need to do anything. And there's kind of like it's like the opposite side of the coin of multitasking. Like if you're already hungover, slept in, and you're not
Yes.
going to do a thing today, then yeah, I'm going to go get some French fries too. And you kind of just do everything. Like if I'm going to be completely useless, sure, let's play video games at noon. Like,
Yeah.
and it really is.
And
It seems like the opposite, but it's not at all. It's the
but it's
same
not.
thing you're doing the other days. You're multitasking as you're working through a current state of energy. And so when it's the
Exactly.
working energy, it's like, let's go lift weights after you do laundry and listen to an audiobook and work. You're working through like that sort of high frequency work ethic, accomplish, conquer
Exactly.
energy. And on the other side,
Exactly.
you're like, let's scroll through Reddit and just surrender to the internal monologue of this is fucking stupid. That guy's dumb. That guy sucks. I hate this person. Instagram's stupid. I hate social media. Like, lean in. Don't stay in that space, but lean in.
Yeah. Because, I mean, the truth is, let's face it. I mean, we'd all, any person, any human being listening, and myself included, would be kidding themselves if if they said that they were all light all the time, right? Like you're getting at so many important points. One of them, I think, is that like we all have a shadow and a light side of ourselves. We
Someone's
the
all
darkness,
light all the time. Run
we're
away. That person's a serial killer.
yeah, like the darkness and the light lives in each and every one of us,
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to just acknowledge that because it does, but it's up to us, what we really feed. And it's up to us what we feed in the end. And like you said, we co create our reality. And I think you hit on something really important when you were talking about like just that being on the other side of the coin. Like, we can be all go, go, go. I need to do it all, multitask, get all of my stuff done, record 10 podcast episodes in a day, and knock everything off my to do list. But what's on the other side of that? Because when we think about energy, right, we do co create our realities. And I say co create intentionally because we do not create our lives on an island by ourselves. We are
Yeah.
co-creators. So how do we co-create? Well, actually it makes me think about like women's it kind of relates in a little bit of a way to women's reproductive health. So I think about it this way, like, right, when a woman is having, we all have cycles, and so does nature. Um the leaves fall off the trees in the winter, and what happens in the winter? Mother Earth, she takes a break. She rests, she turns inward. So, why have we as human beings, we've been trained to work on this 24-hour, 9 to 5 work cycle that is completely out of alignment with nature? So, the truth is, just like nature ebbs and flows, so do we, right? And there are times of day when our energy is going to be at its highest and when it's not, right? Just like think, like I think it's like a cliche or a joke that like, oh, it's don't, if you work in the ER, right, when it's a full moon, it gets crazy there. Or like, you ever hear like, oh, she must be a full moon, you're acting crazy. There's something to that. And that is because just like the moon has a lunar cycle and nature has its own cycle, and we have our own cycles, the ocean has a cycle. Um, nobody's immune to that, right? And so if we really want to co create and we really want to have the best energy, feel our best, our most vibrant and optimal and functioning optimally all of the time, we actually have to allow for the winter, for like the fertile void, for the quiet, for the days when the nothingness is happening, for the days we have to have the days that we balance with the days that we're all over the place with the days that we just do nothing and we lay on the couch and play video games all day. Like those days balance each other out. And the way I like to think of the reason I believe that is because we are cyclical beings. We come from nature. And think about a woman's body, right? So a woman's body has a reproductive cycle. And during ovulation, a woman's egg moves and it sits and it waits. That egg is not running around the uterus being like, oh my God, is the sperm coming? Is it happening? What time is it? Is he coming? Are they happening? Am I going to be fertilized this cycle? What do I do? What do I need to do? Do I have everything I need? She's not all over the place. She just chills and waits. She is good where she is. She doesn't need to do a thing. That egg just sits and it waits. And if it's not fertilized, you know what it does? It leaves. And it's the cycle of nature continues. And if it is fertilized, cool story, that egg is packed with all the nutrients it needs for sperm and egg to travel along with snacks to its next destination.
Mm-hmm.
So she's ready for anything, but she's not in there multitasking and running around like a crazy lady, you know? So we are the same, and we have to allow for that time of our day, of our cycle. So you might even start to notice like maybe there are certain times a day, maybe there are certain days of the week. If you pay attention to the lunar cycle, maybe for you it's around the waning moon heading toward the new moon, because that's when energy's decreasing as we head toward the new moon, which is the equivalent of winter, right? Can't see the moon, it's time for rest and reflection. But if we don't allow for that other side of the coin, like you said, we actually can't co create. We're actually blocking ourselves from creating the reality we desire.
It's Yeah, it makes me think of like it's like being on a trampoline and like only trying to go up.
Yes,
What do you like what
you can't. Yes,
like
I love that.
like a plane doesn't continually climb. Like a small part of the trip is when you're like back in your seat and it's going up. You can't just do that. I mean,
Yeah.
even like my day, it starts like pretty immediate. I mean, like I jumpstart my day and I get immediately I'm up making my bed, doing stuff, going. And now I'm probably through like 75% of my workday right now.
Yeah,
And like after this, it's like a little more, you kind of close it down,
totally.
but you really can't force one or the other forever. And like it's a really tough pill to swallow
It is.
because whenever you're in one cycle of energy, no part of you wants to do the other.
Nope.
Like
Change is hard.
like right now, I'm like, what do you mean sleep in and do nothing? I'm like, after this, I gotta go get groceries. I gotta upload all this stuff. I gotta do X, Y, and Z. I gotta respond
Yeah.
to all these emails. But like, I couldn't possibly, you couldn't force me to eat Taco Bell right now and like lay in bed. I would go crazy.
Me too.
But like in 2 days, I don't think you could even convince me to put on a clean shirt. Like, like Friday morning. In 48 hours from now, I'm going to be laying in bed, sprawled, blankets upside down and backwards, just mindlessly like picking my nose, scrolling through YouTube.
I want
Like
to hang out
doing
with you on a day like that.
it's just a shit show of just nothingness. But at the same time, like when you do the thing you don't want to do,
Yeah,
regardless, you end up feeling better. I don't know.
exactly.
I don't know where I'm going with that thought. Sorry.
I no, that made perfect sense to me. It was a that was a perfect compliment to what we were just talking about, like we were just saying, that that energy just it shifts and you have to allow it. But like you said, you can't just stay in one or the other. And I think that is where the tricky part is, right? Like you said, when you're in one energy versus another, it's so much easier to stay in that energy. It's the shift, it's the transformation that is really challenging. But isn't it interesting because it's like when I think about it in context with respect to like our health issues, right? Because people come to work with me because they want to feel better. We will say we will say that we want what we want, right? But we don't realize that we can't have vibrant, radiant health and well being if we aren't willing to go through that transformation, that shift, the uncomfortable part, right? And I think that's like the double edged sword, right, of change is that we all want it. I and change is the law of life, right? JFK said that's one of my favorite quotes of his. Change is the law of life. I've held that close to my heart for many, many, many years. And I remind myself of that almost on a daily basis because it's true. Change is the law of life. And so, how do we deal with that? I was even in meeting with a colleague earlier today who said, stress doesn't come from dealing with difficulties. It comes from dealing with change. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad, right? Because shifting from feeling that energy, feeling state, like Tommy's talking about his example, like your example of feeling hungover, the shift, the transformation back to the other side of feeling great and vibrant is not always easy. And same with the shift in the other direction. So it's transformation. It's that's really hard. It's uncomfortable, even if it's because we are tired of living with chronic health issues and we want to transform into feeling better and being and living symptom free. The part that comes in between getting from A to B is really challenging. And I feel like for me, one of the biggest things I've learned is that one of the most important things that gets you from point A to point B, or what one of the bridges is commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to really be committed to your purpose, whatever that is.
It's it's like turning a dial and like going between radio stations.
Oh,
This
I
is
love that.
scratchy,
Love
fuzzy,
that.
static, but like,
Oh,
how do
I
you get
love
to the
that.
other one? You keep turning it. You don't go, oh, there's static, and you don't come back. You go,
Exactly.
and then you get to the ding, get to the other side. Like a plane. Think about it, have you ever been in a plane in like a storm?
Yes.
Yeah, you don't just sit there and go, well, it's stormy. Let's sit here and wait it out. No, they put the throttle forward and you go even faster and you're sitting there and you're going through and then all of a sudden it's
And then it's clear.
and you're like, oh
Oh,
yeah, you're like, oh, that was great. That was great. But like that's the only way to get through it is I mean, truly is to just go through it. Like when it
yeah.
gets
The only way
all
out is through.
yeah, when it gets all like, you know, it's like standing under like the awning of like your building and like looking at your car and it's like 20 feet away and it's just pouring rain. What
Yes.
do? You go, all right, fucking just run. And like, you unlock the car and run and get in there. And you're like, okay, okay. And it's like, that's the thing you do. You go through like the howling winds of like change, and then you get to the other side and get in the car and close the door, and it's like quiet, and you just hear it's pitter pattering rain. You're like, oh, okay, okay. It's just the shifting that sucks.
Yeah, it's the shifting.
And
And
so, how do you get through that thing that sucks? Like you said, it's commitment. You go, I'm going there.
because I think you and I both know, gosh, it makes me think of some of the clients I'm currently working with and have worked with in the past. The pain of deciding not to go through it, or partway in between, or somewhere in between, deciding that you're not going to commit and you're going to go back to where you came from. Trust me when I say that that is so much more painful
And just going through it.
than just going through it and getting yourself to the other side. One of my clients and I were talking a couple weeks ago about this exact topic, and in the context of making a transformation with your health and well-being, right? Really hard, because that means, let's face it, we all know if any single one of us wants to make a change that's related to our health and well-being, inevitably it means we're going to have to make some changes to our habits and our lifestyle that are not going to be easy to make. And my client said to me, it's like, I feel like I have to weigh the balance of going through some of weighing the costs and benefits of do I want to have some discomfort now, um, and feel better later, or I don't want to have some discomfort now and still have some discomfort later. Because that's the thing I said to my client is, I said, here's the thing, about life. When you want to make any kind of change, we're all human beings. And I think as human beings, we question our purpose a lot. But what we all really came here for is to learn, grow, and evolve. And for a lot of us to serve. And I'm one of those people, Tommy, too. So, okay, so that being said, like, okay, grow, learn, serve, okay, evolve. It's really just about what you came here to do. And you did come here to change. Change is the only way you can learn, you can grow, you can evolve, you can heal. And it's actually one of the only ways you can serve, too. Change is just required. And, I said to my client, well, the thing is that whatever choice you pick is going to have a lot of discomfort. I said, but you have to think about it this way. Like, do you want to choose some short term discomfort, trade it for a long term comfort, and know that after this discomfort, what's going to be on the other side of that is just more of that? Because you're still going to be in the same uncomfortable place that you're in right now having this conversation. Or you can pick a path that also has discomfort, but on the other side of that is freedom. And here's the tricky part about those two paths is nobody's going to tell you when the path, when the challenges on that path are over, when you get to the part where it's freedom. No one's going to tell you how long it's going to take. How long is that path? How many months? How many years? Whatever. What kinds of challenges are on it? Can I know? And the answer is not really. We don't get to know any of that stuff. But I think it's just thinking about who we really want to be in the end, because we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but like, what's the first thing anybody does when they want to make a change or an improvement in their health or in their life? Let's use weight loss as an example, because that's such an easy, tangible one. And I think everybody can relate to it. So when you want to lose weight, what's the first thing you do? You probably go throw your junk food out, right? Maybe you Google some healthy recipes. Maybe you go to the store and, right, you start doing all the things. You're like, all right, that's it. I'm cleaning out the cupboards.
Mm-hmm.
Chips and junk food are out of here. going to the Whole Foods and I'm getting all the healthy food today. And I'm going to come home and I'm going to cook it. And I'm setting my alarm because tomorrow I'm going to start going to the gym. And every night after dinner, I'm going to walk for 30 minutes. And do you hear what this person's doing? They're doing. They're doing a lot of doing. And that's great. That's part of what that person needs to do is they need to do some things differently. But why is that a backwards strategy? And the reason is because if you look at the science and research around behavior change, another area I'm really passionate about because I used to be in this field of research, especially if we even look at like weight loss studies. But if you look at any research studies looking at behavior change, a majority of them, a vast majority, conclude that, hey, this program or this intervention works, but as soon as it's over, nobody maintains the change. Okay, so everybody can make a temporary change, especially when they're being held accountable. I think we all know that. But why can't these people maintain those healthy changes? Because they were healthy and they were feeling better. Some of them were, if it's a weight loss study, they were losing weight. So why wouldn't they just keep doing it? It's because that's a backward strategy. Because if you are working from the outside in, that is a backwards approach because it's our identity. That's what drives our behaviors, our habits, our actions. So all these people were doing all this doing, but nobody ever anywhere along the line, including themselves, ever thought to think about who they were being. Because the truth is that who they were being was the person that got them into that place in the first place. And maybe they needed to look at the ways that they're being. And that to me is also really related to this whole conversation of energy is we tend to focus so much on the material and the physical. And even in our own lives, we do. We think, okay, I set a goal, right? This year I'm going to make 500K. And we start doing, right? We do all this, we strategize, we make all the checklists, we do all the things, we get all the stuff, all the resources, we do, and we do, and we do, and we do. But we never stop and think, were all the ways that I was being valuable? And are those all the ways of being that I need to be able to do all the things I need to do to have the beautiful life, health, whatever it is that I desire? I think we skip over that question quite a bit, you know? And that's why I love talking about energy work, about energy healing, about that side of the healing equation, and why I am going to bring it more through my work into the mainstream over the years and during my career, because I feel like it helps us connect more to that, like who you're being, you know? It, when you meditate, when you take that path that helps you travel to an alpha brainwave state, like we talked about at the beginning, you connect to yourself. And I feel like it's in that place, in that space, that we can become more open to being like, okay, you know, like I'll use myself as an example. I used to be a super reactive person, you know, like everything. Traffic, especially, would get me super worked up. Used to drop a lot of curse words in the car on the way to and from Highmark, sitting in that traffic and rush hour. But then I started to really shift who I was being. I don't do that stuff anymore, but I'm not that person anymore. That's why. Um, it wasn't just about me reflecting on, oh, I do this thing, so I just need to stop this thing. It was really about me turning inward and thinking about, like, what's the energy behind this? Like, what's the deal with me? Why do I need to do that? Why do I need to yell at that car? That car literally can't even hear me. But it made me feel better for some reason to tell me it was, say it was pissing me off. You know, but it's all connected. So I just think it's such a beautiful way to think about how we can connect to ourselves is through energy, you know?
Yeah, it makes me when you were saying about one thing that stuck with me is how we can't know how much longer we have or how many more challenges we have.
Yeah.
I've interviewed a ton of times this guy, Dale Comstock, who was the
Yeah.
youngest ever member of Delta Force. Um,
Amazing.
Delta Force
Isn't
is they are the most elite fighting unit in the world. They're above SEAL Team 6. Like they are
Are
Black
they above
Ops.
SEAL Team Sticks? Always wondered if they were. I wasn't sure. That's neat.
Yeah. No, so a lot of SEAL Team 6 guys try out for Delta Force. It's not the other way around. Delta is they are the tip. They'll kill you with a pencil kind of guys.
Wow.
And I remember Dale explaining to me what their training is, and he said that the selection process, the like feared, the legendary Delta selection, is you're not working with like a team
Mhm.
like Navy SEALs. Or I'm not trying to shit on anybody. I'm never in the military, but there's no like you're all working together. You're all carrying a raft. You're all climbing the. It's just you. You go through selection just one person at a time,
Wow.
and it's just you. And what they do is they'll give you like you'll be dropped in like a field and you'll have a map, and like this is one example is like you'll have like a whatever your destination is, you'll have 5 days to go whatever 100 miles. All right, so you got to walk 20 miles a day. You got to
Yeah.
for like in for special forces you'd be like, all right, yeah, sure, I get that, or whatever. And but they won't say you have a week. They'll just say you have to get to that target.
Wow.
Okay, well, take your time. Well, the thing is there is a minimum time and there's like a maximum. Oh, sorry, there is a maximum amount of time you have, but you have no idea what that maximum time is. So you have to start thinking, do I need to start running a marathon every day to get there in 5 days? Well, what if I break a leg and burn out? And then you
Yeah.
get to the end and you realize actually no, that you were given 30 days. Okay. So you can't, okay, well, maybe I just walk a mile a day. Well, that's going to take you 100 days to walk 100 miles. Maybe you only have 30 days. And the whole thing is you're not told just how far it is or just how long you have. So it's this huge, like I go to the gym and I know I have 1 mile to do. I know
Yes.
exactly the workout I'm doing. That's different because when you're struggling through, you can look at the thing on the treadmill and you're like, all right,
And you're like, okay, just 20 more minutes. Yeah.
yeah. With that, you don't know. And that is the entire, excuse my French,
Wow.
the head fuck of it is Dale goes, they just tell you, do your best. And so some guys just dial it up to 11 and they'll go, but they'll burn out, they'll get injured, and then they fail. Other guys will take their time. They need to be rested and need to set up camp, and they'll get there, but you failed. And there's no coming back. So you're done. You got to go do something else now.
Wow.
So there's this weird, like, you have to push yourself as hard as you can without burning out, but and the entire time you don't know, do I have 20 more minutes or am I going? And you're finished. What? I'm finished? Yeah, I'm finished. Oh, I made it. And there's this huge, and the thing is they want to see how hard can you push yourself without knowing how much long. So for me, I look at this podcast and I'm like,
Yeah.
is this the episode that like breaks and all of a sudden I get a ton of followers and I make money and I know it worked? Or is it episode 882? Or is it 982? Or is it 2082? I don't know. So do I burn out and start doing 5 a day? No, because then you might fall on your face and quit.
Yeah.
Do I do one a day? Well, that might be too slow. So there's this weird, like, there's a finish line that I have to get to. I don't know where it is. And I also don't know if I'm in first place or eighth
Yep.
place. And I don't know if it's 8 out of 8 places or 8 out of 100 places. So there's this weird, what it does is there are all these selection pressures that just force you to go, I have to do the best that I can do and then a
Yep.
little more, but not a lot more. And like in a weird way, all of life is kind of
It
delta
is.
selection. You're like, I
I love this story
you're like,
and
do
this
I
analogy.
yeah, you're like, do I'm 31. I'm like, do I have to take a day off a week and drink and play video games because I'm 31. Maybe I die at 32. Maybe I can't say I'll enjoy it when I retire. Maybe I die at 90 and I really can just go, I'm going to grind for 10 years and then I'll enjoy it. I don't know. So there's this weird, I don't know, it's this weird selection pressure to the only logical conclusion is you have to find the most you can do and then push like 1% over that, but not
Yeah.
anymore.
And can you, and like, I love this analogy and this story you just shared because it relates to like everything we're talking about is so when it comes to you, right? Because what are you? You're not just a physical body. All of you listening, none of us are. We're much more than a physical body and thinking mind, right? We're electrically charged, literally, vibrational beings made up of energy centers and energy grids. That's what you are. And so can we as both a physical and non-physical being basically at the same time, can we like we don't get to know. No one ever is going to show us like, "Hey, Tommy, today's the day I'm going to show you the movie of what the rest of your life's going to look like so that now that you'll know how it's all going to end and everything that's going to happen, you can plan accordingly and pick the challenges and changes that you would like to make." That doesn't ever happen. So, can we, and to me, I'm going to bring this back to like, to who are you being? Because it's about being somebody who has self integrity, right? First and foremost. To me, that's to me the most important quality in my life is my integrity. I'm nothing without that. Um, but can you just first of all accept and acknowledge that you're both a physical and non-physical being? That in order to achieve the goals or desires you have for your life, that change will be necessary. And then can you be all the ways you need to be so that you can do all the things you need to do to have those desires come true? And like Tommy's getting at, I feel like what you're getting at right now is the even like, I feel like a next level challenge then of growth and evolution is can you detach from the physical outcome? Can you detach from the outcome and know? Because that is how that guy got into Delta because he knew he got dropped off there and he knew it was his job to just be and to do what he knew he needed to do to get from point A to point B. And he committed to that. But he didn't get all worked up and overwhelmed, like you said, with all those external circumstances because he could have, what could have killed him was his own mind. He could have been overcome with, I don't know how much time I have. I don't know what's up ahead. What's in there? I don't even know what's happening between point A or point B. I can't see a damn thing. It's dark up there. Um, what happens if I get in there and I don't have what I need? He didn't think about any of that. He just went one foot in front of the other, one day at a time, point A to point B. And I think this is where that energy piece comes in again because when you're so stuck in a scattered, unhealthy state of mind, it can be hard to get down under those thoughts out of the noise and tune out that noise and just connect to who you really are because you're something so much more powerful than that. And I feel like that's another important thing I could share today is that, you're not your thoughts and your emotions. You are something beyond that and you're the observer of those emotions, but we give our power away to our thoughts and emotions, I think a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. Because we think that they are who we are. We
Yeah.
let them define us. We let them just totally overcome us. I think even just think about like a time that somebody hurt your feelings, especially if it was like your spouse or your partner or somebody close to you that you love. I mean, everything we think and feel becomes our reality. And we're still so much more than that. But we'll let it completely define us. And then we'll hold a grudge against somebody and we'll carry that unhealthy negative energy with us in the form of a grudge because we can't let it go. And none of that stuff really matters because it's not who we are at all. It's not who we are.
I like it.
Me too. I remember the first time someone said that to me. I will never ever forget it. I was in a training, um, and the trainer, my teacher, looked at me dead in the eyes and just said, "You are not your thoughts and emotions." And it was like the most profound thing I'd ever heard at that point, and I felt like it set me free. I remember hearing that for the first time and thinking like, I'm not. That's
Oh,
awesome. Like, I'm not? That's awesome. That's awesome. Because I don't want to be that. I want to be more than that. Because our thoughts and emotions can really get the best of us. And we all have an ego who can be quite an asshole sometimes. So, not who you are. Not that not that voice in your head beating yourself up telling you you're not good enough. Yeah, that's not who you are. That's not you.
that's a real.
Isn't that awesome? Like just yeah, like let that sink in.
Right now, I feel like how I felt the first time I took mushrooms. That's insane.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, you're not them because by virtue of the fact that you're witnessing them,
Yeah.
you aren't. When I go talk to my friend, I'm not my friend because I'm looking at it when I'm talking to him.
Yeah.
I'm not this water bottle. Here it is. Well, if there are thoughts and emotions, the fact that I'm aware of them means I'm not them.
Exactly. And then it's like and your mind starts to explode just a little bit more. I know,
What the
right?
fuck?
I know. You're like, what conversation did we just start? But it's true, and this is where, like, I feel like we could have another conversation about this because it's taking energy healing to like a whole energy and this conversation about energy to a whole other level. But like, this is where, there are so many energetic healing modalities, right? Like dowsing, Reiki. There's just something called spiritual laying of the hands. Um, I'm trained in a lot of these modalities, and it's it's interesting when you think about that in respect to what we're talking about, because in those moments when you're receiving, whether you're receiving or you're a practitioner of any type of energy work, energy healing, whatever you want to call it, you are literally tuning out or down, tuning down your thoughts and emotions and tuning into who you really are, which is something beyond that, to either, if you're the practitioner, to become a pure channel for energy to flow through, or you're the receiver and you just become an open channel for energy to flow into. And it's pretty amazing. Just, these are like the times and conversations when I think, gosh, why do we have to be stuck with these 3D eyes that only let us see the limitations that we're inside of this three-dimensional world in? Because I wish I could physically see, the energy.
I think I think this is the note on which we should end this one. I think we
Yeah,
need to schedule another because I do want to do the energy healing, and I do want to let's schedule that sooner than later.
let's do it.
But I think much like the cycles, I feel like that you are
Ours
not
as
your
well.
thoughts and emotions. I feel like that was the natural end to this.
I do too. I love
I
this.
feel good. I feel good. Of course, this happens on 420 as
I was just
well.
about to say, and
I
go
haven't, I
figure, our
haven't, I
conversation.
haven't, I haven't smoked pot since like Christmas break, but I'm feeling nice and cooked right now.
This conversation got you well prepped.
Oh, perfect. Well, let's definitely schedule another one
I would love that.
sooner than later. Let me. I'll
I
finish
can't
this.
wait.
I'll finish this one up. Hold on.
Okay.
Let me hit stop recording. Um.